So, Chris, you want to start?
Hello. My name is Chris Fellerhoff. I am with Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sophia Garantiva. I'm with the Planning Commission staff.
John Marsh, City of Tampa Mobility.
Brent Buffington, City of Temple Terrace.
Courtney Webb, citizen at large.
David Ellsworth, citizen at large.
Jenny Gordon, TPI, still here.
Patty Rookholm, citizen at large.
Nicholas Lashoff, citizen at large.
Dan Rodriguez, Hillsborough Transit Authority.
Brenton Mosher, University of South Florida.
All right, thanks. And I didn't remind everybody to sign the attendance record. So that's how we're going to do, that's how we do roll call now. So I don't know, Brent, if you want to just pass it around or with the pen. Are there people that did not sign in that want us to pass it around? Okay. But yeah, it looks like we do have.
The recorder would definitely like everybody to sign in, please.
Thank you. Being done. Okay, so with that, let's move to public comment. So is there anyone here for public comments in person? Anyone online? See the answer is okay. So with that, let's move to approval of the March meeting minutes. So the minutes were distributed. And hopefully you at least reviewed if your attendance was reported correctly. That's usually the main correction. But were there any corrections? Okay. Being none, can I get a motion to approve? Okay. Jorge Webb.
Oh, yeah, right.
And is there a second? Okay, Maddie Rockholm, second. So there's no discussion. Let's move vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the minutes are approved. Welcome, John. The sign-up sheet just went around, so I'll make sure I get it before you, or maybe it can come back in. Then, yeah, let's move to members' interest and future topic requests. So, go ahead, Brett.
Brent Buffington, City of Temple Terrace. Just to share, we were able to present some of the chair of the Temple Terrace BPAC. Our committee presented to City Council in May, requesting for their approval to ask the city government to review and update and modernize the bicycle parking and different facilities code standards, for development code. So any new development or major redevelopment that would apply to any of the other it's very basic set of standards as related to what should be supplied from a bike parking standpoint. There are other cities in Florida and across the US that have updated, modernized to add more robust language based on type of development, whether it's residential, so secure long-term storage. It's not just stored outside, better short-term parking access at buildings, and even in larger facilities for like lockers and showers, things like that. And they were receptive to it, eager to it. And so we're starting that dialogue and just consulting with the city as they do a review process, and whatever they ultimately decide to kind of put together and bring back to city council, council will take a vote on that at a later date. So,
Quick question. Are there national standards? I actually randomly just saw on LinkedIn some group I follow announced that they just updated the bike parking standards, and I didn't know those existed. So
there is, and I'm blanking on the names, the Association for
Bicycle and Pedestrian Professionals or
That's
something,
right, that's right.
APBP.
Yes.
Pedestrian Bicycle Professionals.
Yeah, and they have a really good guide. You can purchase it. It's like $45 if you're not a member, and it outlines at length. They have a free version that's like a cursory glance at it, but then there's like a more robust, almost like you think of like any of the other development standards around it that outline kind of best practices. So we're going to be providing that as a resource for them and help kind of review what they bring back together to then ultimately take back to city council. So
great. Chris,
I was just going to, the short version, don't use those wing brackets.
yes,
Just don't.
there's lots of bad ones.
yeah.
Yes.
The one that's shaped like a bicycle? Not great.
You can find a way. The waves are just.
All All right, any other members' interest or future topic requests? Yep.
If anyone hasn't seen it already, the Howard Franklin Bridge multi-use path is now open.
Yeah, it's exciting. Did anybody write it? This one? I know, I saw some people have. Yeah, I'm looking for it. As a matter of fact, that's a candidate. I don't want to steal Jenna's thunder, but, and we'll be looking at, options for our July workshop. So something to think about during today's meeting. That's, one idea that we'll discuss that.
I just want to emphasize that this is something BPAC advocated for a long time, and I think that pedestrian method, so kudos to all the people.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Looking forward to it.
It used to be an outrageous thing to think that you have an interstate highway with a trail attached. It's pretty cool,
Yeah, definitely.
especially over a giant body.
Yes.
Another one, so in the past with the city, we've worked with Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to do some bike rodeos within the city, kind of partnering with Temple Terrace Police Department, working with our leisure services. We've actually acquired all of the equipment to do it ourselves now. So we don't need Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. So our TTPD will facilitate it from kind of like the official standpoint, and then all the equipment is now stored currently at the Family Recreation Center complex. So we're doing our first bike rodeo for kids in July. They have summer programs there, and so the main group that they're trying to hit is the kids that are there doing a free helmet giveaway. But it is going to be open to the public, so other families that have kids that they want to bring by, they're going to be on it as well. So,
And I don't know if you know Emily Hinsdale with sidewalks numbers, but
yes,
they organize a lot of those things. Actually, Maddie's involved in that as well. So I don't know, possibly something. Yeah, I know she's looked for help and had questions like, where do we store this stuff? And
yeah,
the ones that I know they do some work with TPD, but I don't know how that's going.
yeah, I don't know how. I just know Hillsborough County was stretched and they were often ones that got pulled into different directions. So the leisure services, the one that reached out to kind of groups that have been a part of other community events to get their donations to basically get all the equipment. And so it didn't need to come out of, budget with, the city.
That's great.
And so they'll have their little logo, nearby, sponsored by Mid Possible. So
Perfect. Yeah, okay. All right, anything else? All right, well, let's see, we do have 4 action items, so we'll get started on this. So first up is the FY 27 through 31 tip, and welcome, Elizabeth.
Good evening, BPAC, Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. I'm here today to present to you the draft transportation improvement program. So what exactly is this thing called the TIP? Well, it's a program or list of federally funded and regionally significant projects over the next 5 years. We do this because it's required by both federal and state law. And at its intent, the reason Congress even codified this was to help bring visibility to these federally funded projects. Another way to think about the TIP is local governments have their capital improvement programs. Essentially, the TIP is the FDOT work program. There are many things that are required for us to update this annually. Public input is a big part of the metropolitan planning process. We try a variety of methods to share with the public what is funded over the next few years. So we try social media ads, postcards, signs, a lot of different avenues to make people aware of these investments. We work very closely with all of our partners, but particularly DOT and HART, as they're the designated recipients of both federal highway funds and federal transit funds. It must be consistent with our LRTE, and the TIP is not a wish list. This is what is being proposed to be funded for about 180 projects this year at different stages of project development, whether it's just getting started in planning or if it's funded for construction. So a couple quick facts about the TIP. So there's 179 projects, again, at various stages of development, totaling about $2.5 billion. The lion's share of that funding, about $2 billion, is what we would call the highway program. But don't think that's just highway widenings. It includes things such as safety projects, bike walk projects, trails, signals, and of course, some widening projects as well. Transit funds are also in there, 280 million, as well as some federal and state funds for the port and the airport. So when you slice and dice the TIP by the total project, so again, 179 projects, you can see the majority, about 80, are in our category called good repair and resilience. So that's essentially just maintaining what we have. So you'll see tons of resurfacing projects, bridge rehabilitations, parts investments for maintaining their fleet. There's also projects in other categories, whether they're major projects like widenings or real choices when not driving trails. We do this to just give a high level snapshot of what those projects look like. But as we all know in reality, many projects could go across categories. So do take this with a grain of salt. But what I wanted to communicate to you that the majority of the investment are maintaining what we have. So when you slice and dice the data by all of the funding that's in the Transportation Improvement Program, you can see about 46%, about half goes to the major projects. And that's not really a surprise to us because these are major investments. You know, West Shore Interchange itself is $500 million. The I-70, the I-4 express lanes that are going to come online in a few years, that's another $500 million. So there's fewer of those projects, but they account for more of the money because they are large and complex. The TPO, as you know, through the list of priority projects, does have its own smaller pot of money, about 90 million across these 5 years. And you can see a more even distribution towards, safety projects, real choices, good repair. And that's largely due just to the direction of the board and being able to kind of funnel those projects to the things that are of most interest to our local partners. So I'll talk about just a few of the projects. Again, there's 180 in there, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But there are a few major projects, like I mentioned, the West Shore Interchange that recently started construction for phase 1. It'll be in construction for a while through probably the early 2030s, but it's a much needed investment. The Turnpike is also widening Suncoast Parkway in the northern part of the county. Construction should start in 2029 for that. And like I mentioned at the top of the presentation, DOT, through the leadership of Governor DeSantis, is expediting the I-4 express lanes from I-75 to Polk Parkway. There will be 2 express lanes added, 1 in each direction. There are also 6 projects within the TIP this year that are around the Dale Mabry campus of Hillsborough College. Won't be around the bush. We know that there's a lot of interest in that site right now with the potential raise development. So DOT has kind of line itemed 6 projects. The scopes aren't very firm on this, but the things that we do know is DOT plans to widen this section of Air Cargo Road and Tampa Bay Boulevard to have increased throughput if that redevelopment were to occur. And then DOT also has plans to add a signal at Steinbrenner and Dale Mabry. Everything else is kind of up in the air depending on if and how the project progresses.
Elizabeth, sorry, what is CST?
Oh, sorry, construction. Yeah, so projects in CST, projects in construction in 2027. So again, because it's 180 projects, I tried to highlight some of the ones that are going to be real and start construction next year. So these were the ones that I wanted to call out in the city of Tampa here at Hillsborough College campus. And the thing I thought you'd be probably the most interested are the standalone bike ped projects within the TIP. So in Temple Terrace at 56th Street in Sawaha, DOT is going to be starting design soon on figuring what type of pedestrian signal they want there. Funding is programmed for construction in 2030. There are also planned pedestrian safety improvements on Bush Boulevard at 30th and 40th. Design has not started on that, so I don't know exactly what that's looking like, but it's in the hopper to get designed and constructed. Plant City as you may remember from a presentation a few years ago, is advancing their Plant City Canal Connector Trail. There is some money in the TIP to do preliminary engineering fiscal year 31. But because this is such a high priority of the city, it's our understanding that they're going to fund this locally and much faster than starting design in 31. And they're working very closely with DOT on that proposed alignment. Within the city of Tampa, they received a Sun Trail grant to build South Tampa Greenway to the tune of about $2.3 million. And those funds are set aside in fiscal year 30. Then down in South County, there's a planned trail overpass for the South Coast Greenway to get over Big Bend Road. And construction is programmed for fiscal year 29 for that. Then closer to Temple Terrace along Fowler Avenue from 56 to River Hill Drives, there are plans to construct a divided concrete separated bike lane. The county is also working on developing the Tampa Bypass Canal Trail Segment 6 from Morris Bridge Road to Cushiout Highway, so very close to like Flatwoods and Trout Creek Park. Preliminary engineering is expected to start next year on that project. And then finally, in the northwest portion of the county, they won a $12 million Sun Trail grant to construct that really vital segment of the Upper Tampa Bay Trail from Pearson Road, parts of Van Dyke Road. And those funds are programmed for fiscal year 31. So we're continuing to bring the TIP through committees. It's on our website for review. We're doing public outreach, and we're going to be bringing this to the TPO board at their hearing on June 10th. Happy to answer any questions that you have, but the recommended action that staff is seeking from you today is to recommend approval of the draft TIP to the TPO board.
The South Tampa Greenway, is that Manhattan and Henderson or El Dorado?
Manhattan.
Any other questions? Well, so yeah, there's can I get a motion to recommend approval?
I will make a motion to the BPAC to recommend approval of the fiscal year 27 to 31 TIP to the TPO board.
That was Chris Tellerhoff, and sorry, who's second? Jorge Webb, second. All right, any other discussion? Okay, just a voice vote is, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimous. Is there a question? Then, okay, thank you, Elizabeth. All right, next, local roadway resilience countermeasures, so. Welcome, Matthew Pleasant. Matthew, sorry, didn't get to check in.
Sorry,
earlier.
Matthew's not able to.
Oh, you're, it's not Matthew. Well, before you start, I will just, I did notice that there were a lot of slides, and we just wanted to see if you could keep it 15 minutes.
I will be glad to do that.
Yeah, and as much as you focus it on bicycle pedestrian parts of resiliency, we don't care about, bridges washing out unless there's a pedestrian path on that bridge, so that would help. Thank you.
Noted, and do the best that I can. Good evening, BPAC, Wyatt Birchall with TPO staff. As was alluded to, the presenter today was at the last moment unable to join us, so he sends his regrets that he's not able to join, but you'll have the great fortune of having me present this material to you. So we last spoke to the BPAC about this project in March, and we provided you an update. Just wanted to emphasize a few things. As we all know, the Hillsborough Transportation Network faces many challenges, vulnerable impacts from flooding and extreme heat and other hazards. To this end, several months back, the Hillsborough Transportation Organization began working with Applied Sciences to look at 3 representative roadway types across the county, each representing unique vulnerabilities, and each one we took a deep dive into and tried to find some strategies that might be useful. And we focus mainly on rainfall or inland flooding, heat, and tidal flooding. Just real briefly, the project is divided into several different sections. We first wanted to be very intentional with the corridors that we decided to study, making sure that they represent jurisdictional diversity, that they're each geographically distinct, as I mentioned. And then we also worked with our technical stakeholder committee, which included Hillsborough County, Stormwater Division, Hillsborough County's Office of Sustainability. We worked with City of Tampa and also the Tampa Aviation Authority. We all received great input and making our decisions on roads to select. And then we began doing research, looking at best practices from in similarly vulnerable regions in the United States, and also looking abroad for any new innovative mitigating strategies. And then we finally developed our countermeasures guidebook and our supporting material. So as I was mentioning, we looked at many different things, all of which are now located in the guidebook, which you can pull up a copy and the agenda materials linked to the SharePoint. So essentially, the idea was to have some diagnostic frameworks. So as you can see, for rainfall events, we want to first ask from a planning perspective, first, where is the flooding occurring and what is the existing level of service? Hillsborough County, for instance, designs to a 25-year level of service, and then to take a broader look at the larger watershed. And I won't go into too much detail here, but essentially what can affordably be achieved and what's underperforming. A lot of times, just through neglect, a lot of times in drainage and swales, they're often overgrown, or even if they are maintained, just a part of the culvert is being overgrown and taken over by vegetation. So just taking a look at the on-the-ground conditions was very important as well. We wanted to provide a cost breakdown for some of these solutions, which you may already be very familiar with. One is rainfall strategies dealing with permeable pavement and impervious surfaces, and where you provide for cost and benefit. And so the cost, as you can see here, is relatively low with some caveats, and the benefit is relatively high. One thing to note with the permeable and impervious surfaces is that if it is a road that receives a lot of congestion or a good amount of traffic, it might be best to go with a standard asphalt. And I know I want to say one time, I just realized that Brian Cook with Applied Sciences has joined us. And Brian, if you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought it started.
We're very strict on time, and if you can keep it to anything competitive related.
Sure, how do you do? I'm Brian Cook with Applied Sciences. I do think this, did you go through this much?
Yeah, we only have about 7 minutes, but I briefly walked through the document. So.
Okay. So I do think, when we're going through the different aspects of the guidebook, this sort of sequence of analysis is important. You'll find that for each of the different opportunities. So there's different other situations that we're addressing. So yeah, I guess if he's gone through this, but I think this is one of those important pieces of the document that kind of lead you towards good design. And it's worth going through these sequence of steps for each. So in the case studies, I show it a little bit, those questions, that sequence of questions will be answered and kind of leads up to a good, like an example solution for the area. So White's talked about rainfall, so looking at some of these opportunities in the guidebook, there are multiple of these where there's images and diagrams, like three-dimensional diagrams of rainfall strategies. We have like this is a whole section on green infrastructure, the different types, the benefits where they could potentially be used. When we get into things like heat, there's again a whole section of those like prototypical solutions. One of those being comprehensive shade tree planning, and not just the trees themselves, but maybe thinking about, there's some mention about considering specific corridors, like within a city or a county. There may be certain corridors that you may want to apply some kind of designation, similar to how we have other guides and standards for different areas of our cities and counties. But on those areas, there might be maybe even separate policy about setbacks or to allow room for tree canopy. Anyway, different considerations within that. Also, then the shade within this idea of shade tree canopy, it goes through and it kind of talks about how to evaluate the right-of-way spaces and how do we fit trees in, and what types of trees can fit into which situations, right? So live oaks obviously being the grandest of canopy makers in our region. I'd say elms, like if you go down to Hyde Park Village, is one area where there's like, this is on display. The oak tree canopy provides the most shade, most character. Second would be the elms. They survive in our area. And then where you're really constrained, tighter root balls and all that, we have the creperbirds. Other heat strategies would be to deploy some kind of like physical relief in terms of like cooling or water. Issues with those is you need meter hookups and you'd have to hook up the plumbing, things like that, but that could be coordinated. And then we also looked at sea level rise, and so there's sections on that with these typologies, looking at what are some of the things you could do. One of those being, which is probably the most complex, raising a road. But we are, like for our company, for example, is working in Martin County, and their whole adaptation plan is about identifying about 5 places where they're going to raise roads. They're dealing with the issues with the adjacent neighbors and working out the harmonization issues, the drainage issues, all of that. So it can be done. And then there's other things like backflow preventers, which have been installed in our region. And anyway, there's those different kinds of strategies. So looking at case studies. So again, going back to that sequence of analysis, we looked at Dana Shores Drive. It's by the golf course, right on the border of the county, city Tampa, and in that kind of town and country area, just west of the airport. So starting out, where are the low points and how low are they, especially related to sea level rise, water coming back up through stormwater systems? And then can you elevate? Is there that opportunity? Is there enough space laterally? Can you harmonize? Does the stormwater infrastructure interface with the coast? So does that stormwater infrastructure actually is it creating problems because it's connected to the sea? And that seawater with high tides we're experiencing is now coming up through the system. Bayshore, just last week, I think it was, had water come up through the system and flood part of Bayshore. Is active stormwater management required? So this is when you're starting to get into pumps and resource intensive response, which isn't even possible in all areas. So something to consider there. And then can land be acquired if properties are within those flood vulnerable areas? Can we those? So that was the sequence of things explored through the Dana Shores Drive area, and you can look at that in the guidebook. So there's another thing on here, and it doesn't get into more details there. But as far as heat, I know for bikes and pets, it's a big one. Maybe even more frequent you're out there rather than when you're out in the rain, maybe in our area. So starting out again, how much right-of-way space exists? Where can trees or other shades elements be implemented within that right-of-way space, it's showing that diagrammatically. I'd say the biggest thing that affects the ability to have a nice canopy is power lines. They're starting to bury some of those in some areas. In older parts of the communities, you may have alleys where utilities are in the back, but power lines are a major issue and dramatically affect the ability to have shade and tree canopy. Are the trees healthy? And more importantly, are their soils healthy? That's something people often overlook. To have nice, big, healthy trees, you often need irrigation. That's just like the trade-off, right? If you want that shade, you have to pay for these resources, pay for the maintenance. Again, why there might be a connection to some kind of like designation of streets. And you start to codify that stuff, put funding towards it in a specific way. That could all be something that is built up by a community. Can we remove impervious surface areas? This is the classic like road diet idea. So that's an opportunity. And then is there an opportunity for that cooling infrastructure? So we did go through and on North Boulevard, right there by the new Publix, we actually looked at that stretch and thought, what are the things that we could do? And if you look at the drawing on the left, that's the existing condition. You can see the circles that are there on the right side of the side of the street. You have crepe myrtles, which are kind of, they're not too healthy. I'm thinking about the trees and soils there. That whole canopy, there's a lot of right-of-way space. It's next to a public use area, the school, high school there. So that tree canopy corridor could be embellished. There's room for potentially removing the turn lanes in the middle, or merge lanes to reduce the median, although those medians would then probably need irrigation. I've seen a lot of medians that look pretty nasty because they don't have irrigation. Over time, they kind of look like, they get worn and it doesn't quite work out. Another thing we looked at was even just the pruning of crepe myrtles. This is a practice that's tradition in our area. And just letting crepe myrtles grow to full canopy. That was one of the issues, for example, in this area next to the Publix. They're really pruning them back. So letting those trees grow, and again, maybe there's some standards or guidelines that go along with some kind of corridor designation, so it's an opportunity. So those are all the elements of the guidebook. Anyway, I'm sure Wyatt did an excellent job giving an intro, so I'm glad I could follow up and either present the rest of it. So, any questions?
Any questions? So since this is an action item, is there a request for us to?
There is, I think I mistakenly had pulled up the wrong version of the PowerPoint, but there is a recommended action that you recommend the TPO board accept the local roadway resilience countermeasure study. I could tell the agenda if you want, so free to.
That's okay, thanks. And then help me understand, the study was, I guess I'm trying to understand what you're asking for. Is it these 3 locations that we agree with the treatments, or those were just case studies in a broader list of?
Sure, I think I understand. So as a metropolitan planning organization, one of the things that we don't do is we don't build or implement or maintain any type of transportation infrastructure. What we sort of do is a lot of technical study. And so this guidebook one thing that it might do is be a resource for the community and to our partners that do own, operate, and maintain this transportation infrastructure. So the recommended action would be that the motion, the TPO board says this is a great study and accept it, adopt it, and can share it with partners. I'm not sure if that answers your.
It does answer your question. Oh, thank you. Yeah. We're just trying to understand
Yes.
what the request is, so that someone's going to have to make a motion. So hopefully they understand it before they. All right. So, okay. Any other questions about what the ask is? And then is there a motion to, whoever we choose to get, Mike can work with you on what the wording should be.
I have it here in the agenda.
Okay,
I move for the BPAC to recommend the TPO board accept the local roadways resiliency countermeasure study.
all right, that was Brent, but is there a second?
Second.
Dan Rodriguez, second, thank you. Okay, is there any other discussion? All right, let's do a voice vote then. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so it passes unanimously. All right, thank you both. Thank you. And next is Jenna to talk about economic benefits and trust.
Good evening, BPAC, Janet Gordon, TPS staff. And you all have heard about this, not quite a study, but a report and analysis that we've been working on for a while now, and it's finally complete. I say for by PDF document formatting a little bit, but I have that handled. Anyway, I'm trying to get the slide show up. There we go. So. Okay, just for some background on our economic benefits trails report. As you all know, Hillsborough has a network of trails right now, but it's quite fragmented. And improving it requires an investment of resources. And so the question is it providing amenities or greater benefits beyond that? So the purpose of this analysis was to study multi-use trails to economic infrastructure and share what the impacts are of improving it and what the future opportunities are. And so this is just a map of all the existing trails compiled. And we looked at 4 different impact areas: visitor spending and tourism, because trails draw people to spend money at the businesses nearby, property values and redevelopment, household cost savings, jobs and infrastructure efficiency. And I should just note that all of our estimates tried to be cautious and conservative. They were based on local data and standard economic models conducted by our sub-consultant. No, not our sub-consultant, our partners with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. We work really closely with this with them on this. I think we're incredible on that. But so this analysis, we assumed a 25-mile expansion at about 1.5 million per mile. And that would bring Hillsborough to connectivity about on par with Pinellas as it stands. That would cost about $37.5 million in total capital investment, and would yield about 9.81 million in annual economic activity. So you can see return on investment exceptionally within 4 years. We're talking about 8.5 million saved on transportation costs because people aren't having to take as many car trips. 79 local jobs supported through trail-related activity, and 3.36 million in wages and salaries earned through the activity, trail-related. And as it stands, trails are already producing measurable returns right now. It is producing about 9.85 million in economic returns. This was one of the models that we used, and it's called IPLAN. So we measured impacts across the current network, and then what the mature network would look like. So actually, yeah, currently they're supporting 79 jobs, 3.4 million in labor income, and continuing here. So expanding the network, yeah, would support up to 171 jobs and over 21 million in annual economic output. say for review here. And these are the projected visit numbers, non-local visitors under that future connected network. So in terms of property values, trails tend to boost property values within a quarter mile by 3 to 5%, based on national studies and local ones as well in Florida. Hillsborough has over 57,000 residential parcels near trails, which represent about 23 billion in taxable value. And trails, they also support construction and maintenance jobs. About 440 job years from expansion. That is under the projected expansion. But I should clarify that a job year means a job sustained over 1 year, so not necessarily one created. But you'll see here that that's actually a higher jobs sustenance would be a better way to put it, per dollar compared to roadway expansions. So we're talking about 117 job years for $10 million of investment for trails, compared to just 50 for highway expansion, for example. So it's an efficient infrastructure investment as well. So a few final conclusions based on our review of different studies are that the economic impact depends on connectivity. Just having a trail that's fragmented or disconnected won't yield anywhere near the same results as one that's well integrated. The design quality, whether it's a pleasant trail to walk on, of course, and then just land use integration, making sure that there are economic assets nearby where trail users are spending money. And just as a conclusion, our report found that trails are more than amenities, they're economic infrastructure. And all of you should have the report in your packet. So we're welcome to ask any questions from you as needed, but our recommendation is just that BPAC recommends the board accept the.
Any questions? Yeah, I just like to say that, I'm really excited about this. I think it's really helpful to have, I mean, in a world where people are like angry, things that don't understand why we have bike lanes and things like that, that having an economic support for some of these decisions that's beyond just appeasing pesky people I think is really powerful. And I also think, I don't know if does Pinellas County track the tourism dollars from the trail? I mean, I've been on multiple trips which were essentially like restaurant and pub crawls. That you go over there and you can ride your bike for miles, and you probably spend $100 just at all the places you stop. And I know many other people do the same thing for Hillsborough County. And so do they track that? Because that would be powerful.
I wouldn't know.
That's something to think about. Yeah, it's not that it's going to affect this report, but then look at obviously the Atlanta Beltline and any of those types of things that are, you see it, just, you spend one Friday night there and you realize what an economic driver these trails are, or can be if they're planned and they're connected. You can get places. So nice job. Okay, if there's no other questions, then can I get a motion to recommend the report?
I move we accept.
All right, so John Marsh, can I
You can.
reword the motion exactly as it's written there?
We accept the economic benefits of trail.
Okay, thanks, John. Is there a second?
Second.
John, okay, John can make a second. All right. Don't expect there's much controversy here. Any, so all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you, Jenna. And I'll let you stay up there for our last action item, which is another at-large membership application.
Absolutely.
Which I don't want to steal your thunder, but I believe this fills up our at-large membership.
It does, yeah.
Excited.
And I won't steal your thunder, Ben. It's all yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben. Full disclosure, I'm not from the area, but I've been living here like 3.5 years. I'd say since I started living here, I got really into like planning and just better design. Kind of I taken like GIS classes and like urban planning classes. I was pretty shocked to learn how many people die on the roads every year, not just in Florida, but in the United States as a whole. I've actually been hit by a car myself, and that I would say really, really changed my mind about some things. But I really love all the stuff I've heard here today. The stuff is really interesting to me. And I was really just looking for any way to get involved. And I feel like working with local governments is kind of like the best way to make an impact on your community where you live. I actually biked all the way here from Temple Terrace. I wouldn't recommend it for the average person, but it is an electric bike, so I'm not that crazy. I want everyone to be able to feel comfortable out walking and biking in their community. I feel like it's the key to more equitable communities, and it really makes me sad to see people getting hurt on the roads, especially around universities or like downtown areas that people are supposed to be here for tourism and walking around. I'm supposed to be graduating USF, hopefully 2027, 2028. I don't have a ton of experience actually doing stuff like this. I've really just taken classes that use like GIS, Unicode, stuff like that. But I really am interested in this stuff. I just wanted to come here, see how this works, and introduce myself and see if there's any way I can help in any way, because I really like this stuff. That's about all we got.
Thanks, Ben. And yeah, welcome. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I guess one question that does come up, and it was, you saw it on your application, is ability to attend meetings in person. Before you comment on that, I also think that this committee thinks it's important to have a representation from throughout the county. So we can't have it both ways. Not every, otherwise we just have people that lived and worked downtown. So we don't require 100% attendance. We do have online participation. We're fortunately in a better place than we were even a year ago with a pretty full committee and not having trouble getting quorum. So I won't say it's required, but I think it's a fair question. It's kind of, what are your thoughts on, you have riding a bike here from,
I mean, it took like 45 minutes to get here, but honestly, it wasn't that bad of a drive. To be honest, Google Maps took me on a pretty, it's like not huge roads like Bowser. So I could do this, especially if you guys only need like
it's every other month now.
Every other month. Yeah, I'd say that's doable. And honestly, I'm gonna try to work more this summer to get myself a car, because one of my friends is moving to St. Pete and I cannot like cross the bridges to go visit her.
There's a trail.
That's actually very interesting to look at that now that you get mentioned that. But yeah, that's a valid concern. I made it today, and I think I could do it essentially.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, any other questions?
So what part of town do you live in?
I live like a mile away from USF on Fletcher Avenue, where it like starts to turn into Morrisburg.
That is sort of near our current transit service.
Oh.
If you want to go that route.
Yeah.
And so do you know if you live in the city or outside within the city of Temple Terrace or Tampa or in unincorporated?
I think I'm technically Temple Terrace. I live off of 56th Street and Fowler, and in Fletcher, sorry. At the view of Perkins. So I would be honest, I'm not from here, all the unincorporated zones, a little confusing. There's a lot of them around here.
So where did you move from?
From Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so you're a USF student?
Yes.
What are you majoring in?
Environmental science. I don't have a perfectly.
Yeah.
All right, so you say you ride an e-bike. How fast does the e-bike go?
35 if it's downhill.
Oh, okay.
It's not a big base. But I
What's
tell
the rating What class is it?
Not going that thing.
Honestly, I bought it before all those laws started. If a police officer asks, it's just a bicycle.
And what do you think is the biggest issue with e-bikes?
Honestly, people just riding them recklessly on sidewalks and like giving them a bad name, because I think it's like environmentally a better use of batteries than electric cars. Electric cars are super cool, but I think you can make a lot more batteries for bikes or like trams and stuff like that than expecting everyone to move to like EVs and autonomous vehicles. Yeah, and I guess just not having big enough bike lanes, because it's a little weird having to share it with non-electric bike users. It's never really an issue, I've never ran into anybody, but just making bike networks more appealing to people, I think is really the biggest problem with electric bikes, which is the same with normal bikes, in my opinion.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the questions.
Any other questions? All right.
You guys can let me introduce myself.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming. So, yeah, I'll do now is, entertain a motion to approve Ben Hingham, is that right? Is that it? Hingham? Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve Ben Hagum's application to the Hillsborough County BPAC.
All right, thanks.
He works.
That's
I work.
Great.
Bike with the Temple Terrace ride, so I already know that with enthusiasm.
Seconded by Fred Buffett.
Yes, that's also appropriate. Seconded by Fred. So, okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Welcome, Ben, as our newest member. Jenna will go over the logistics. You're not officially a member until the board approves your application, but you are, so we meet every other month. I don't know when yours would go for the board, or actually our July meeting is always a workshop. We'll be talking about that in a minute. Which means it won't be in here. We usually do like a bike ride or a field trip or something like that. So I would imagine by our September meeting, you'd be approved, but Jenna can work with you on kind of all the onboarding stuff.
I'm happy to get involved in any way, so.
I really appreciate your enthusiasm. Welcome to the community. Yeah.
Brenton, for instance.
Okay. And then, we're doing great on time. So, that concludes our action items, and then we have one status report. So South Hillsborough County Mobility Study. And is Elizabeth still here, or is she online? Because she left. Do you know if Elizabeth was going to do this or somebody else?
I think it was somebody else, right?
Okay.
It's gone online.
Yes, it's me. If you guys can hear me, this is Stephanie McQueen with HDR.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Hey, Dave. I'm not sure quite how to handle the presentation, given because I know it's on the computer there, so I'm not sure if I can get somebody to change the slides or.
If you can share your screen, that would work. Let me see if you have permission.
Okay.
I can take care of it.
Thank you, Gail.
It may take me a minute to find the presentation on my computer. But give me
Stephanie,
just
that's
a
okay. I can pull it up real quick.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
So I've heard of this, but I have not, I didn't.
It's in my account, but that's all it says.
Okay.
It's like, write it down. So, that's it.
Yeah, I heard that she was this, I guess, kind of exploratory. Yeah, but that's all.
Let's do a city. thing. Yeah,
Yep.
it's gonna be good. Be cool. But I don't know any other.
Right, we see slides. Staff, so I don't know if you're ready to go.
Okay,
or-
great.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm requesting to take control. Let's see if this works.
I'm not seeing that request. If you want to just tell me when to switch, I'll switch it over. No problem.
Okay, perfect. It's kind of at the break point. So could you just scroll down or up? Yeah. All right, that's a good place. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm sorry I'm not there in person to present. Appreciate
we
the
would.
time. Great. Well, good morning or good evening. You can see how my day is going, that I think it's morning, but good evening. My name is Stephanie McQueen. I am with HDR. I'm a planner. I see a hand just went up though. Okay, sorry. So just wanted to give you guys a quick update on a study that has been completed with Hillsborough County to complete an update to a traffic analysis that was done for South Hillsborough County. The map that you see in front of you is our study area. It basically stretches from the Alfaya River down to the Hillsborough-Manatee County border, a lot of the growth areas of the county. And what was done back in 2019 was a traffic analysis that Cutter did to look at how travel patterns in this area changed, movements over a time period that was November 27th to 2018. So we were looking at analysis that came from Streetlight Data, which is this data repository analytics company that collects data from smartphones, connected vehicles, and has a amalgamation process that kind of takes out the information that would be private and just produces trip data. So the first time period that was looked at was back in 2017 to 2018. The intent of our study was to look at the same area in a more recent year and do a comparison. So we looked at travel data between July 2024 and June 2025. So a similar time period over the course of the year, and analyzed the trips between the areas and within the study area and then outside the study area as well. Could you go to the next slide? So in a little bit more detail, here's our study area. We had some origin destination zones. There were 19 of these, and we divided them into what we called non-activity areas, the larger, more residential areas, and the activity areas that tended to be more commercial areas that you could get to from key nodes or intersections, and that were typically considered to be within a 15-mile bike ride of a major node. So these activity areas, I think if I can count correctly, there's 8 of them. And like I said, they're all fairly suburban out there, but theoretically, these are the activity areas that are more bikeable with key destinations. We also set up using the same methodology that was back in the 2019 study, external gates. So people within this study area, how are they leaving and entering South County? Are they going up or down US 41, I-75, or US 301? Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. So kind of the big picture up front, what do we learn? So we compared the travel data, we compared time of day travel, the trip purpose. We looked at all these different factors, and as you know, not really surprising, South County is rapidly growing. It's still suburban, but a lot of the travel demand is actually growing for non-work related trips. There's still these activity hubs that are actually drawing trips to the new development that's going on down there. There's not necessarily just travel for commute trips out of the bedroom communities, out of this residential area. There's a lot more traffic that's caused by trips between the zones or the areas within the study area. So it's not just about the commuter trips, it's the local all day long trips around some of these key nodes like Big Bend and within Riverview and Balm. So that's kind of the big takeaway. up front. It's not just about the commute trips in and out of the region. And I think that's why this might be interesting to this group in particular, is that there may be more opportunities to look at the trips that are going on in cars now and how that may switch to different non-vehicular modes in the future. Overall, we did learn that there's a growing number of trips in South County. Between the 6-year time period, there is more traffic out there. In these zones that we've kind of highlighted over on the map, Riverview and Balm, and Waimama Rural, they're more on the eastern side of the study area. They're the larger ones, but they also had the largest increases in the total number of trips. Overall, there was a 29% increase in the number of trips, like just between the two time periods. So that's a pretty sizable increase in traffic within that time period. And this, this may be reflected that, data is just data collection may be better, but I think it does reflect the growing volume of traffic out there. Next slide, please. We also saw that there was a rise in this internal travel. So that means a trip that starts or ends in the study area. So these aren't the through trips that are going through the study area. You may have seen, we had those gates. So people could enter along I-75, drive through the study area, and exit. We counted those trips, but these are not the increased trips that we're seeing. There was a growth in those, but percentage-wise, we did see an increase of trips that are going to someplace in the study area, not the through trips on the major roadways. And this is particularly noted because there was over 3% increase in trips that start and stay within the study area. So these are people that are starting somewhere in South County and staying in South County. They're not leaving on one of the major roadways. They are starting and ending their trips within the study area itself. Could you go to the next slide? And this is another kind of data point that reflects that, is that there were fewer trips that entered or left the study area as a percentage of the total number of trips. Again, reflecting that the commuter patterns, people aren't just, getting up in the morning, leaving the study area, and then coming back in the evening. And they're also kind of changing, if they do leave the study area, where they're entering and exit from. Like in past years, I think we made the assumption that people in South County were leaving the study area and then driving north. They were leaving to go to work in downtown, in Brandon, in USF, some places in the northern part of the county. We are actually seeing that people are leaving the study area a little bit more than in previous years versus via one of the southern gates. So that's kind of a change in those commuter patterns where people are leaving and entering the study area itself. Could you go to the next slide, please? Also, kind of back to the zones themselves. So as I said, we had these 19 different zones. When we looked at trips that stayed very close to where they started, these were the zones over on the map that popped up as having that higher percentages of trips that started and ended within the same zone. So you see the 70% marker there, that's Fishhawk. So 70% of the trips that start in Fishhawk actually end in Fishhawk. So they're going 1 to 3 miles, they're shorter length trips, and they're kind of going around for multiple reasons. It's not necessarily your work related trips. They're running their errands, they're going to schools, they're going to destinations close to their home or their point of origin. The other places we saw higher percentages of these intra-zonal, so starting and ending within the same zone, are Riverview, Apollo Beach, and Sun City itself. In general, in all of the zones, there was an increase in these intrazonal trips. So about 3.8% of all trips were intrazonal across the board, across all of the zones. Can you go to the next slide, please? We also saw kind of a change of trips to some of the activity area zones. So these are, again, the commercial areas along some of the major roadways at some of the major intersections where you've got the shopping centers, the Publix, the Walmarts, the things like that. We saw kind of a shift, whereas before there were a lot of trips to the activity areas in the northern part of the study area. So along, I think that's 6 and 7, that's Gibsonton Drive, I think is the road. That's the east-west road. There was a decrease in the number of trips up to that activity area. And in the southern parts, so along State Road 674, I think that's Big Bend Road, those activity areas saw an increase. And I think this is reflective of there's more developments going on down there. So folks in the southern part of the study area don't necessarily have to drive north to get to the Walmarts, the shopping centers. There's more of those commercial developments that have been developed and are opening in the southern part of the study area. So again, this is reflective of more shorter distance trips. People are staying closer to where they're starting and not having to leave the study area or drive further distances within the study area itself. Next slide, please. Also, we definitely saw in the data that there was a change in the trip purpose. So there's 3 major trip purposes that are being reported in the data that we used. The non-home base, so that's trips between any non-home destination. So this is a trip between the grocery store and the school, the doctor and the gas station, anything that's not between a home and another destination. Then our second category in the pink is trips between home and non-work destinations. So these are the trips that actually start or end at the primary residence and are going to any destination that is not a place of employment. And then your blue are the home-based to work trips. So these are the traditional commutes. So this is, you're going from your house to work to your house. And as you can see here, between the 2 different time periods, the home to work percentage of trips dropped from 17 to 13%. While those home to other destination number of trips actually increased as a percentage from 49% to 56%. So this is kind of reflective on maybe work from home patterns. People during, the pandemic switched to working from home. Maybe there's just more trips that are going on. Maybe people are taking more trips throughout the day to run more errands or to run more trips to the school. But I think this is really interesting that it's not just about those commute trips, that there are a lot of trips for other reasons. And I think this opens up an opportunity to kind of think about how those trips may switch to a different mode in the future. So I think this is another kind of data point to point out as an opportunity. Could you go to the next slide? Also, the other thing we looked at was the travel time. So the graph over on the right-hand side, the darker green shows the time of day. So when did the trips occur back in 2017, 2018 versus the lighter green, that's the more recent data. So what we're actually seeing is there was kind of a spike up in the middle of the day, big, an increase during the peak hours in the morning and a peak about, 4 or 5, probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then a decrease over the night. What we're seeing in more recent years is that it spikes and it kind of plateaus throughout the day. And there is actually like a pretty high increase in the afternoon in that PM peak hour. Much higher numbers are shown in that PM peak hour. So when you're out there driving around in South County, the traffic may look pretty consistently high throughout the day. There's not the big AM and PM peaks that we would traditionally see with commuter pattern travel behaviors. That it's really, it peaks and then it kind of stays high throughout the day. We're also seeing that, that over on the chart on the left, you're seeing that percent has really increased throughout the whole day. 30% of all the trips actually occurred within that PM peak hour itself. So that's 1/3 of all trips are happening within just a 4-hour window. So I think that's kind of interesting to see that growth that, you know, people may be working from home and then running out errands in the evening, or maybe they're retirees and they're not working anymore. Maybe that's another demographic shift that occurred. And they're just doing more trips in that PM peak hour period. So I think this is, like I said, another kind of interesting note on how things have kind of shifted out there just within that 6-year time period. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. The travel time improvement. So we saw some changes in the length of trips. In our first time period, we really were seeing longer distance trips that took longer times. Because the trips are shorter, the average travel time is lower consequently. So because people are staying within the study area, they're not driving as far distance-wise, so the travel time itself for the average trip has been reduced. For those longer trips, they actually have increased in time. The longer distance trips have longer distance times. So it's a little interesting to kind of summarize it in general. Like the travel time doesn't necessarily look worse, but you kind of have to break out the travel time by the distance of the trips. We also did see that there's been improvements to some of the roads out there, especially in the south part of the county. So where new connections have been made, the travel times have actually decreased in some places because there's better connections. There's better local roadway access, and some things have actually improved in some areas that are highlighted on the map on the left. Could you go to the next slide, please? All right, here, last slide. You're asking yourself, why does this matter? Why should we care about this? So big picture, the transportation system in the South County is really kind of evolving to be more of these shorter, more internal trips. There's that heavy afternoon travel. There's more PM peak hour trips occurring. People are not crazy when they're driving home from work or driving around going, wow, there's a lot of traffic. It's backed up by the data. We're also seeing that strong zone to zone interconnection. So people are staying within the study area for their needs, and they're not, leaving as much as we thought they may be. We did see, based on the travel times, that the trips between the east-west zones, that still remains high. That north-south connectivity has improved, but because of just the roadway network out there, it seemed like the travel time for those east-west connectivity kind of stayed high or actually increased. And then again, there still really is that high reliance on I-75, that corridor for access to retail and services, and that larger retail connectivity. So that's not changed. But really, the bottom line is, what does this do for policymakers? It's kind of suggesting that in addition to just thinking about the commuter pattern, that access in and out and through the region, there's an opportunity to look at some local network improvements, making the multimodal connections, and figuring out ways to connect to these activity areas that are growing and having more destinations closer to people's homes or residents or businesses. So hopefully that was interesting. Happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. Any questions? All right, John?
John Kabicki, question for you about the certain times of year. Did you guys look at like any trends or travel patterns that changed during school being in session, as well as when there were major construction projects? I know you showed like Gibsonton had a giant decrease. Was that around the same time as the concrete intersection project and all that? Like, could you tie anything to it?
Yeah, I think that's interesting. We didn't look at like breaking up, to see the time of year, because we did look at a solid year. We didn't look at that because the previous study hadn't looked at that. And that was kind of our point, is we were trying to compare apples to apples, but that's definitely something within the data that would be available. And we've got all of, the thousands of trips, hundreds of thousands of trips data, that is available to look at, but we didn't look at that because we were trying to do, like I said, that apples to apples comparison between the two time periods.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Ben.
Is there any, do you have any ideas to how the population fluctuates with snowbirds to come down and how their trips change things?
I do not, again, the demographic stuff wasn't something that we looked at. That would be really interesting to see what percent of population shifts occur down there. And again, maybe tie it to the different months of the year. That would be kind of an interesting question to see if we could answer.
This is Chris Fellerhoff. Thank you, Stephanie, for that presentation. I know you worked with Megan in my department on this project, and I really wanted to make sure that this got presented to this group because I think that change in trip lengths is really, really interesting. And a lot of the conventional wisdom about bike ped stuff is, well, it's only for the people downtown or who live in the city, and something's happening in South County that is making, people aren't getting up at the crack of dawn to drive downtown and then have no use for short trips. You're showing that there's a lot of short trips happening out there. And I think that's really interesting data to be able to work from as we try to figure out, what we need to support that growth. And the assumption that, well, all that growth down there is just going to be more of the same, or, it's just going to be the sprawl with these massive trips. We should be on guard for that, but something is showing that people's patterns are not what you might presume in an environment like that. And I want to see if what's also really interesting, I thought about this, was that you were able to, go back to an area where we had done a traffic study, back 2019 or whenever the first one was done. But it's talking to Megan, it doesn't seem like you'd necessarily be limited to the data is out there in the streetlight universe. So we could kind of replicate this sort of approach, pulling that old data compared to new data in a lot of other parts of the county as well, and see if there are other places where those sorts of patterns are emerging, or if that's something that's really just kind of unique to the South County area. And I think we can learn a lot about the rest of it. There's potential to learn a lot about, other areas of the county with this kind of analysis too. It's really cool stuff, I thought.
I agree. And I think the thought there is, right, use that as data to justify investments in multimodal transportation in these areas, right?
Right. And I mean, we've put a lot of work into, making sure got our complete streets guide and our standard cross sections include lots of these accommodations, and people question if it's worth it. They talk about seeing the empty bike lanes or the empty sidewalks, and nobody's going to do it out there unless this isn't necessarily reporting people who bike or walk. It's tricky to find. I worked with some streetlight data a few years ago to try and parse out where people were biking, if we could pull out bikes and peds along trails, and it was really noisy data. It was, some of it was showing stuff that was really hard to believe, but just the fact that this is showing people making those shorter trips says those could be converted, and it may make a case for more localized transit as well, instead of just saying, oh well, we got to run these super long commuter routes all the way into downtown. That may justify thinking about local circulators or things like that if people it is a whole lot of stuff, but kind of cracking all those assumptions open is a really big thing, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And maybe I'll just add one other comment that I heard from another one of these committee meetings is we kind of should think a little bit more out of the box. We heard, the roads are so congested down there, and there's a lot of evidence that high school students are going to school on electric bikes. So that might be a thing now that technology is changing, is that these shorter distance trips may be becoming more appealing to people to deal with the congestion and to get to the places where they can just get on a trail or on a sidewalk and get there much faster than in a car. So thanks again for the opportunity to present.
Yeah, I mean, that's also, I think the e-bikes are also going to really transform our assumptions about where we see people riding bikes, that now, it doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees or your trip is 3.5 miles instead of 2 miles. With e-bike, you can tolerate the heat a lot better. You can take a slightly longer trip, and more people are going to be on them. And we need to, I think it is to be cautiously encouraged. But, as long as they don't run over in front of Sally's house. But, so we need to make it safe for them on the streets, and, plan on the fact that people are going to be using these things, but they're going to be moving faster. So we have to, design the roads to be able to see.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, any other questions for Stephanie? All right, thanks, Stephanie, for joining us and sharing.
Thank you all.
Okay, so that's it with status reports. Let's move on to old and new business. And yeah, Jenna, do you want to facilitate? So for any new members, or July, we do a workshop instead of a regular meeting here. Usually people have summer vacation plans, and so it's a lighter attended event. But so we just want to talk through some ideas for July's workshop. But it's really us to decide.
Yeah. And honestly, I probably didn't even need to walk over here. But yeah, we've done a lot of different things before. David, we had an idea in particular of bike ride on the new town Franklin Trail. We heard about that earlier. But we're open to any other ideas. It's fun.
Just look at this at 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the pros and cons. No, we did a bike ride last year, actually, along, the new FDOT route on Central. And I guess we got lucky with the weather. It wasn't, we've also done inside events where we, do just kind of workshop other topics and stuff.
Yeah,
So
at the Albertson branding plan workshop.
that's right. But yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing about, well, it's timely. It's a new option for us. Obviously, the downside is potentially the weather, whether it's heat or rain. But so that's the one idea that's been proposed. But I guess I'd also like to hear, are there other ideas that people want to nominate?
So I've done this multiple times. I do it in the mornings. Usually we get a little favorable weather, but I lead a bike ride around to a bunch of all the splash pads because it's really hot. And then you get to see all your local parks that have water features. If you're feeling squirrely, get in them. I will be getting I'm going to do that anyway, but so I'm still going to have that ride. But it's a good time. You still get to see things about the city, talk about it. And it's something that I don't think anybody here has been a part of since you were a child. It's a lot of fun. And you're usually the only people there for some reason. I don't know why. Sometimes there's kids and they look at you kind of weird. It's a fun time.
What time of day? What day and time do you do that?
I'll do it. I lead a ride Friday mornings. And every once in a while when it's too hot, I'm like, guys, get your bathing suit next week. We're doing it this time. So normally it's like 9 a.m. and it's not usually raining in the mornings. So it works out, but it's hot regardless. 5:30 p.m. it's usually both. So it might be a little confusing, but it's an idea.
I have an idea too.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Cindy Penn, City of Plant City. Just throwing out a random idea and then I'll go back on mute. But the Swamp Mountain Bike Club maintains a lot of trails, Wilderness, Trout Creek. They used to do Alafaya. They're building new one in Pinellas, and they also have Ball and Boyette. And if there's a way to intersect the two communities, whereas maybe many of these riders would never attempt to get on the city roads or that sort of thing, because it is just one entity to interact with Swamp Mountain Bike Club, it might be an interesting way to, try to merge the two communities together or get that interaction going. Like with a
Okay.
tour or like a tour of a park, or we could do a ride, or you know what I mean? But I just wanted to state the intent and then see if it's something you'd want to further discuss from there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, right, John.
One idea I know, I floated it, I have no clue when it was, how long time ago it was, but it was one of the heart routes was being proposed and trying for everybody to go on a group ride on one of the heart, routes. Maybe go somewhere to do a meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
Does the Swamp Mountain Bike, control the Drunken Monkey trails?
Which trails?
I think it's called Drunken Monkey. It's like a
Where's
much
that?
more
Which
chill
park?
trail system.
Well, there's
And
the,
I can't
so
remember.
for example, like Wilderness is about 7 to 10 miles of paved. There are other options for mild trails, and then all the systems also have options for the mild trails as well. So yeah, I'm involved and I'm in all these trails all the time. So just having someone, doesn't have to be me, but you know what I mean? Having someone who knows can help figure out if you wanted to do a ride, or maybe even look at some of the other difficult trails like on foot rather than riding them, but also do a ride or things like that. And the only reason why I mention that is because Alafaya is a regional attractor, and it brings hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars into the region. And there's state figures on that I can provide. And so it's just another interesting thing to add on to already what we're discussing as far as bringing more money into the community by building trails. So, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different aspects we can do, but looking at stuff like that. And again, you could combine like easy trails with maybe looking at some of the more interesting features, but Alafaya also has camping, which is another interesting thing. So just brainstorming.
Yeah, thanks. Right. Hey.
I just always, food is always nice too, like a restaurant or something, like a destination. Will the ferry be up by then? We can meet the St. Pete, meet that at the same time.
Then like a cafe or something, but
Yeah.
maybe not at that time of day.
Okay. Any other ideas? So here's my thought on just kind of reaching consensus. Maybe let's start. We have a few kind of bike ride proposals versus the idea of doing a heart ride. Cart/ferry, some type of thing with a destination where we can just meet and socialize and talk about anything. So maybe let's start with just a quick show of hands, or who's kind of in favor. I'm going to ask you to vote for either kind of bike or some transit with a destination. So let's start. So those in favor of some type of bike ride.
Oh, yeah, I would say both.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to decide. Yeah.
I would go bike ride.
Okay, bike ride. Okay, so we have like two there, and how about transit, some type of transit oriented? No. Sure you can, but it's yeah. So it sounds like that would be more a transit event would be more. I don't know the status of the ferry. Dan, are there any kind of new things that you would recommend, our, I mean, we had talked about doing this, Route 1. when it was
Route
free,
one's great, 'cause-
But it's still so
Kick off.
easy. You just walk on and tap, and I took it here tonight, so
yeah.
Route 1 is always good, and there's lots of good destinations on Route 1 too. But yeah, did you have something in mind, John?
I think it was Route 1 was what I originally thought about the idea, but, yeah, I mean, I like the idea of meeting up for a dinner or something like that. But, you know.
And I have to think about that. I'd run it by my planning guys that give a good idea.
Okay.
That's what's a good route to do.
Okay, and we're not to finalize it today. We can send out something in written. It sounds like consensus is to do something like that. I think that certainly more appropriate for summer, probably. And we did do a bike ride last year, so it's easy to
Switch it up.
switch it up. So is that enough for you to go on for now? And so maybe Dan will follow up with you about some ideas.
Yeah.
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 Route 1 to Seminole Heights is easy for
Maybe
these.
get just like a broad ranging motion.
Okay. So, yeah, so would someone make a motion that for, yes, for staff to coordinate with our, some type of route for our language? Sure. So,
John Kavicki, I'll make a motion that Jenna coordinate with Art on a route for our retreat in July.
so second,
Second retreat.
okay, Lori, the second, okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, okay. Is there any other new business?
I just have a couple of quick updates about stuff going on in the county. We've got a number of trail projects, sort of in process. One of which is the design for the closing the gap on the Upper Tampa Bay Trail. So that's going on right now. And I don't have a very solid estimate mid to late of the year, but later this year, there will be public involvement activity to review those initial designs. So I'll certainly keep you all posted of that, and I'll share it with Jenna if we get a definite date. And also, there's another trail called the in South County called the Adamsville segment of the South Coast Greenway, which would link between Big Bend Road and Sims Road, along in between Bullfrog Creek Road and I-75. And that is currently in a PB&E study. And unfortunately, they had an online public involvement event for that, which closed last week. But I did get a link from the project manager, which I forwarded to Jenna earlier today, and if she could send that out. They said if the materials are still available to view online, you can't actually submit anything to the website. But if you send me an email, if you have any comments or questions, you can send me an email and I will forward that on to the comment team, the project team about that. And Jen, I sent you a little blurb about that. If you can blast it out to the list, that would be great. And it's been closed since last week now, so I want to try to get it. I know it's kind of late notice, but if you want to look at it, please do and get it back to me maybe by the end of the day on next Monday. If you have any comments, I can forward that on so we can keep these projects moving, but make sure we get good input.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And actually, that brings up a couple things. So one is, yeah, now that we're meeting every other month, you noticed last month we started this newsletter. There were a few items, I think, related to Bike Month that we had put in there to find that useful. I think it's a good way to communicate stuff in 2 months between events. But also, so as you have topics or suggestions, just send them to Jenna and or myself. We have a shared file. We just keep those in and then we do the mailing. We could even do them every month. But our thought was, we have this meeting every other month and this serves as a forum for that. But also if you have stuff that's timely, like some event that takes place before even the next month's newsletter, we can get those out. We don't want it to be too noisy, just kind of be respectful of everyone's inboxes, but if you have things that are relevant to this committee, you get it to Jenna, we can send that stuff out, just kind of, if it can wait, it'll wait to the next newsletter, but otherwise we can get it out to the membership, especially public meetings and things like that, where we think there might be interest. So, yeah, so send us those and we'll get those out. And don't remember the other thing. Oh, actually, just so our next, so we'll have the workshop in July. We'll send out information on that. Our next meeting is going to be here is going to be in September. Unfortunately, I can't attend that night, so I apologize, but John should be here to run the meeting. And is there any other new business then? Thanks for the update, Chris. I know we used to have that as a standing item, please, on the agenda, but thank you. It is always good to get updates, but that we have from the city, county, including Plain City and Temple Terrace.
I want people to provide input when we give them the chance. So
Yeah.
get any opportunity to get in.
Agreed. So, okay, well, if there's no new business, then we will adjourn. Thanks, everyone. I wish I had a better excuse than that, but my favorite band is Flower James.
Oh, man, that's.